You're listening to Hillary Simply, and I'm your host, Hillary. In the words of Albert Einstein, I have no special talents. I'm just passionately curious. So let's get curious, unpopular, and honest on endless topics together. And 3, 2, 1. Hey, Pat, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I don't know you. This is like the first time we've ever met, so this is a little different for me. But can you tell my listeners like who you are and kind of your story a little bit?
Yeah, my name is Pasquale Russo. I go by Pat. Um, I am quadriplegic, paralyzed from the chest down. I got in a car accident when I was 16 years old. Broke my neck at C5, C6, and C7. My paralysis is from about right here down. I'm quadriplegic. A lot of the questions people say is, how can I move my arms if I'm quadriplegic? I have it's called tenodesis grasp.
Okay.
So everybody puts their wrist down, put your wrist up, and your hands automatically close, and that's all the movement I have in my fingers at all. I'm paralyzed on the back sides of my arms, all in my armpit area. So since I have paralysis within all 4 limbs, that's why I was diagnosed quadriplegic.
Okay. And so basically you can feel like the top of your arms, but not the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah, yep, exactly. All this I could feel, and all the bottom right here is all numb.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And so you got into a car accident when you were 16.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I was me and a friend left from school,
Uh-huh.
and we were on our way to an auto parts store, and actually wanted to go by another high school to check out the girls.
Of
And
course.
on the way there, we went through a light. As we were approaching the light, it turned green, and we just kind of rolled through, and we almost made it all the way to the other side. A guy ran the red light, hit my door. I was a passenger. My head kind of went out the window and hit the top of the door, and that's how I broke my neck, with my neck going out the door.
Wow.
And yeah, that's pretty much how the car accident happened.
Were you wearing a seatbelt?
I was not, and they told me if I was, I would have probably got decapitated.
What?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that you weren't.
Very, very much.
I've heard a few stories of people who have gotten in a car accident and are not quadriplegic necessarily, but have had their lives saved by not wearing a seatbelt. Although I'm sure there are many cases where the reverse is opposite or true, but that's crazy. Okay.
So when they did estimated speeds in the car, they said was doing at least 65 miles an hour when it hit my door.
Oh my gosh. And who was the driver? Did this other driver make it?
Nobody was injured but me. Everybody else had like scrapes, nothing really majorly wrong except for me in the car accident.
Wow.
And I was my driver, and then the driver of the other vehicle were the only ones involved.
Wow. Do you have, personal question coming. Do you carry any resentment?
Not anymore. I actually been wanting to go down to the police records and find his name and try to find him and see if he'd go out to lunch with me.
What would you say?
And, thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
In the very beginning, I was very resentful of everything that I lost, but now I'm grateful for everything that I have.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay,
Yeah,
so how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
38. I will be 39 in about 2 weeks.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, when is your birthday? Now I feel like I'm going to have to release this on your birthday just for you.
December 2nd.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, well, we'll do. Okay, so yes, happy early birthday. So you've been living this way for almost 23 years.
Yes, March 21st was my accident of 2000.
Okay, and at what point and what made you go from that feeling of resentment to almost grateful? I actually said gratefulness.
Yeah, well, so when I got to reflect and look where my path was going at the time, and even where my path went afterwards, I, it slowed me down.
Mhm.
It I feel it saved me in a lot of ways where my life could have ended up. I got my daughter out of it in 2011. I would, that it was all in my path from the accident of getting the things that I have now.
Oh my gosh. Well, and on part of the reason I want to have you on is because you create these incredible butcher blocks.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
do
gosh.
butcher blocks, urns. I've done a few tables. I've been expanding more and more on my woodworking, what the most I can.
Okay, so was woodworking something that you enjoyed before the accident?
Not the woodworking I do now. Before I worked with my dad, it was more construction,
Okay.
bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, room additions. But the fine woodworking came afterwards, and it came. I started in 2019, so yeah, 19 years later, after my accident, I started the woodworking.
Wow. And was that kind of a therapeutic thing? Was it I need to make money and raise my daughter? I heard you say you have a daughter.
Yeah, so where I was talking about where my path was in the bad way, I was just a street guy and was doing a lot of illegal things to make money.
Okay, okay.
And so after I went through the self-development program, personal development, whichever one you want to call it,
Yeah.
I started recognizing the example I was setting for my daughter, and I know I had to make changes. So it started off where for one, I just needed a change. So I stopped doing everything I was doing, and I was trying to make money here, trying to make money there. Nothing was coming out. I had a neighbor throw away some chairs from the 1940s,
Wow.
and I started just refurbishing it out of boredom, and I realized how much I enjoyed it. At the time, I think it was kind of therapeutic to just be doing something at the time, and there was no money involved. I started posting things, and I started getting good feedback off of it, and mostly off of people who already knew my situation.
Hmm.
In the beginning, it was like I was I didn't I can't say I didn't accept the wheelchair, but I wasn't trying to focus on that. I was always trying to focus on the work, and like me, my bigger accomplishment of somebody was to say like, hey, when I talk to you, I don't even notice that you're in a wheelchair, notice that you're paralyzed, I forget about it. And that was an accomplishment to me at the time. Now I actually more accept it, and I try to focus on that point because I see the inspiration behind it now.
Yeah, it seems like there's a need for, people in similar positions to have somebody to look up to and say, "Hey, I can do whatever I want. I just got to set my mind to it." So,
And not even in my situation, a lot of my feedback is from people that are walking, and I can't even believe you're doing that out of your wheelchair. What am I doing? And I got my whole body working. So
wow.
it works. It works in both areas. It's not just actually have a bigger audience with people that aren't paralyzed and are.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know I follow you. How many followers do you have?
TikTok, I'm a little bit over 80,000. I think 83,000 now. I'm almost at 14,000 on YouTube. 9,000 on Clapper, and a little over 3,000 on Instagram.
Wow. So you're pushing close to 100,000 people or slightly over. Oh, math.
Yeah, I think slightly over, just a
Yeah.
little bit over.
Does that feel awesome?
It does. It's been helping me a lot more to accept my situation and what my purpose is, more of my purpose.
Yeah. So you said in 2019 is kind of when you had your wake up call that you were like, okay, what am I doing with my life? I got to do something different. And you started with the woodworking.
2017 is when I had my
17.
wake up call.
Okay, 17.
2019, I got into the woodworking.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me on that.
All right, that's fine.
Um, how do I ask this? What was life like before that?
Before 2017,
Yes.
um, I can't ever say that the wheelchair has held me back from doing things. It has put a lot of limiting thoughts on myself,
Mm-hmm.
but from the very beginning, I was doing something. I might not have been, and it's hard for me to go back and forth because it's like I wasn't doing the right things,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't regret nothing that I did to get me where I'm at.
Yes, I think I understand what you're
So,
saying. Like you were
yeah, so,
you were doing what you needed to do but to get by, but it was maybe things that you were doing were with the mindset that you also had at the time as almost, dare I say, victim kind of mentality. Why did this happen to me? Oh well, I'll do, whatever it takes to get through this life, or and now you've kind of shifted to this, I can have whatever I want and I want to be a positive influence in this world. Would you say that that's kind of,
yeah, you could say that definitely.
yeah?
I've had my moments of why me during the first, I would say, 10 years. Struggled with alcohol, a little bit of drugs along the way.
Mhm.
And in all of that, there was, okay, so I'm dependent. I rely the first 4 hours of my day, I rely on somebody else taking care of me.
Okay.
And there's a certain amount of money you cannot, once you pass your cap, you'll lose your caregiver, and it's very low. I want to say it's at 21.99 right now, $2,200 or something. If you make past that, over that, I lose my caregiver. So, and I'm dependent on a caregiver.
So
So,
you have to
uh,
run this line of make enough, but don't make too much.
exactly,
Oh my gosh.
exactly.
And if it, let's just say for a second that you made over 2,200, how much would you have to pay your caregiver daily or monthly? I guess what I'm asking
Um,
is like, what would your income need to be able to pay for that, just having that, nothing else in your life? Just,
they make 25 to 30,000 a year.
okay. So
So that's whatever that would be.
a
That's
decent
what I'd
amount.
have to come up just to pay them.
Oh my gosh. And that's, I hate, I
And
often,
there's that, and the hard part is the gray area
mhm.
because I could totally see myself getting to that point of being able to pay for them, but there's that just that in between line gray area that I'd have to get past. That's the struggle.
Yeah, well, I think that's a lot of people struggle. Anytime you open a
Yeah.
business, there's always like this, okay, I'm going to go into debt so that someday I can be up here. But everything in between is like, oh crap, what's that road look like? And it's scary. I've owned a business myself, and I remember not taking home a check for a year and a half before it, paid for itself. And in your case, you have this extra expense that just helps you live daily.
Yeah, and that's the part that's the struggle because I've done a lot of things in the past few years. Went without buying clothes, new clothes, stuff like that to invest into tools and everything like that. But there's a tool I could get by with if I had to borrow one or rent one. A caregiver is another story,
Mhm.
and like you said, I need that day to day just to get up and start my day.
Do you have the same caregiver every day or do you have somebody new every day?
I have for the last 3 years, I've had the same caregiver Monday through Friday. Then I have my sister on the weekends.
What I that seems like a relationship that could get really close. Do you have like a special relationship with your caregiver?
Yeah, we've been over the years. We've had ups and downs, but we're pretty good right now. We've actually became pretty good friends.
Oh,
You
awesome.
do get like and it's cool because I inspire her. So days that she's talking about like, oh, I didn't want to get up and go to work, but then I see you get up and do everything you do, so I have to get up and go to work. So,
She's like,
so
I'm
it
gonna
kind of
do
cool.
it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that I get to inspire her along the way, and she's actually happy to be along the journey. So, like, I've talked to her about certain things that I want to do with traveling, and she's willing to travel with me and stuff like that. So, we developed a pretty good relationship.
That's amazing. Okay, so if she's sick or something, who comes in? Anybody or nobody?
My sister, that's what I got, and that's
Oh,
that's another hard situation to be in because they don't provide you with a backup in case she comes sick. And their thing is if it gets too hard, call 911 and go to a hospital.
oh,
That's
those are your
their that,
options?
those are my options. That or like going to a nursing home, or yeah, those are my options.
I often think we live in a system where we just have like sick care, just no, no health care that, wants you to be healthy. They want you to get sick and then they'll do something about it. But even what they do about it is lacking. And I don't pretend to know the answers to what they could do better. But it seems to me like there should at least be a backup for when somebody's sick.
Yeah,
That's crazy to me. Oh my
I
gosh.
agree. I've had several discussions, but they said they're just the way that they are built up. None of them are built up to do that, and they to me the care system really sucks. They're not worried about taking care of anybody. They're just worried about somebody signing the paper to say that they showed up so they get their money.
Hmm.
Um, there's not a drug test or nothing. So some of the people that they send to my house are like, I can't, I have a kid. There's stuff in my house that's worth money. I just, they just send whoever. There's
Oh.
not a, there's not a big, there's not a big care for the patient. As long as they get somebody to show up there, they don't really care about their background too much.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Seems to me when you hit the big time, this caregiver that you have, um, we'll pay her double, and
Yeah.
she gets to be with you all the time, and she gets to have a backup for you too. Because
Yeah.
I'm standing that you get to have. I mean that you just fling to the next level, and you get to pass that gray area, and you go right for shooting the stars, and you get to pay for two caregivers, and it's perfect. So you have a daughter. Did she come before or after your accident?
After my accident, she was born in 2011.
Okay. Only the one? Just the
Only
one?
the one. Yes.
Okay. Walk me through how that's possible.
Just like anybody else.
I mean, forgive me, but I have no
No.
idea.
Um, it's you just got to be a little bit more creative.
Okay.
Um, I can't. All right, so we're going into this.
I mean, it's up to you. I was thinking you were
I'm
gonna
willing.
say.
I just
I was thinking you were gonna say we did IUI, whatever. But I mean,
I'm
hey, have at it.
all natural way. It's
Okay.
I could still perform my way.
Perfect.
I
Okay.
got everything like that. I'm all good in that area.
I'm sorry. Was that too much? Was that too personal?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I mean, you don't know. If you're for quadriplegic and you're paralyzed from here down, my first thought is like nothing functions the way that it's supposed to.
So I am. So there's complete spinal cord injury and incomplete spinal cord injury.
Okay.
And not saying that has a difference. Some people don't have function down there at all,
Okay.
and it's just kind of hit or miss. So incomplete, part of my spinal cord is still attached. So below, when I was saying earlier, I'm numb. I do have feeling throughout my body.
Okay.
I don't have normal feeling. The best way that I could describe it is when your foot falls asleep and it's coming back to life, and you get that tingly sensation of
Yeah.
where, so I could feel where you're touching at. Some places better than others. I can't feel hot or cold, but I could tell the difference between hot and cold just over the years, feeling the different sensations. Um, if somebody were to poke me with a needle or rub my leg, I couldn't tell you the difference, but I could tell you where it was at.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. Okay. Is there a fear at all that you'll do something to sever the rest of your spinal cord?
Oh no, I got a cadaver bone, a metal plate, four screws holding my head on.
Okay.
So
So you're like, so
it's all,
you're better than the average person, maybe then.
yeah, it's all secured in there. It's good to go.
Okay. Are you okay with telling us your daughter's name?
Yeah, her name's Jerry Anna.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. She's in some of your Instagram videos. Is she like the light of your life and your little helper and
Oh yeah, she brought life to my life. Yes,
oh my gosh.
she's my helper. She's awesome. I have had sole custody ever since she was like 15 months old.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we've been together the whole time. That's been my buddy.
What was that like raising a baby being a quadriplegic?
um, So it was let me start where it began. So me and her mother were together
Okay.
up to the 15 months. She suffered from addiction, an addiction problem,
Mhm.
and she overnight, and it literally happened overnight to where she was my caregiver and overnight was gone, and it was me and my daughter living on our own. It wasn't that she was gone completely, she was in and out, but she was gone from the responsible situation
Mhm.
of what a parent would have to do. So overnight, I learned how to change diapers. I was throwing her over my knee onto my lap, figured out how to get her in the car. And I'd have family come over, and I was like, I got to figure it out. So I would sit there and I would try to, get her in the car seat, and I wanted to make sure I could do it on my own. So some of it was just sitting there for a couple hours, sticking in her in and out of a car seat, getting the wheelchair in with not bunking her in the head and stuff. So it was just a lot of uh, practice and just getting it done. That's what I had to do.
Oh my God. What advice would you give other parents who maybe are in a similar situation that struggle and want to give up and
Um, don't. uh, it's no, it's it, I don't know it seems hard in the moment,
Mhm.
but it's such a reward later on. The bond that you get, the relationship that you get, the love that you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important is the love there that me and her have for each other.
Oh. Is she I imagine she's pretty helpful. I feel like you're so blessed
Oh yeah.
to have a
Yeah,
girl
she's
cuz
great.
I feel like they're automatically a little more nurturing and motherly just genetically than boys are. So woohoo, bonus. But she helps you with your woodworking project. I notice mostly with the gluing stage.
Yeah, she actually could run every single tool in my shop but the table saw. And she probably could run that one out of my fear I don't let.
Oh my gosh. Okay, how long does it
But
take you guys to do a project then?
this is a question that's asked me all the time, and stuff that I have, it's about 5 or 6 hours work into a cutting board. We're usually making 5 to 10 at a time,
Okay.
because there's a lot of dead time. Like you said, with the glue, you gotta wait 24 hours. So you only have like an hour or so getting the first part of it done. And then you gotta wait till the next day to cut it back all up, flip it to end grain, slap it together, glue it again. Then you gotta wait till the next day to sand it. So there's a lot of dead time in between. So we're usually building a lot, but I'd say completely at least 6 hours into each board. My bigger boards, my smaller boards, not as much, but the ingrain boards are about 6 hours into them.
Okay. And what's the hardest step in that process that took you the longest to figure out how to do on your own?
Good question. So in the woodworking, I would say the hardest one in the beginning was when I was by myself and she wasn't around, she was at school or whatever, was getting a piece of wood up off the ground onto my lap or up to the saw. That was like the hardest thing for me to learn.
Okay.
Everything else came a little bit natural. I had a couple kickback, scary moments on a saw, but you just learn. Like it's one of those things you need to learn. You have to learn. Saws are very dangerous. I don't know if you know about kickback, but
Mm-hmm.
if
Go
you're
ahead and
pushing
explain it
through,
for people listening who don't know. I know what it is because I'm just in that.
okay, kickback is when you're pushing a board through the saw. The board comes off your fence a little bit, goes into the blade, and the piece of wood comes back at you about 80 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So if you're, I have to leave a clear zone. So just in case it passes by me or doesn't hit me in my chest or nothing like that, because where I'm sitting at, most people are standing up. It's at their waist and they would get their stomach. Me, it would be my chest.
N-
So I have to make sure I'm off to the side. And yeah, there's just certain, and then also a lot of people cut their fingers off in those moments trying to save everything. And there's a blade right there. So
Have you?
that, that, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna. You can finish your sentence.
I had not much more to say.
Oh, well, I was gonna ask, have you hurt yourself Since
Oh yeah.
yeah, to
Oh
the
yeah.
point where you needed to go to the hospital, I guess I should say.
I'm stubborn. No, I didn't go to the hospital, but I've had some.
But maybe should have.
I had some go get a napkin and some duct tape. Let's get back to work.
I like it. That's my kind of guy. Oh my gosh. Um, so no missing fingers at this point, though.
No,
Okay.
I get it a lot though because they're always curled up. They're like, "Oh, he's already cut his fingers off." It's like, no, they're there. They
They're
just don't
there.
work.
They're just under. They're already tucked. They're away
Yeah.
from the blade. Okay. So what prompted you to get on social media finally with what you were doing?
The social media got me because I was on Facebook. I posted, friends and family were seeing it, and I started seeing the feedback there. I started posting on Instagram, and I would say I did an abundance and prosperity training with Chris Lee,
Oh, he's awesome.
and he's this my guy right there. He's great. He he just started opening up the blessing part of it. And before, when I very first was posting on social media, I was just posting my work. So I wasn't showing the process. I wasn't showing me in a wheelchair. I wasn't showing that I was quadriplegic. I was hiding all that part. And a lot of it was I have a thing with trying to prove myself and not have that be a highlight. And a lot of it was sympathy. I always connected that with weakness. So I didn't want people to sympathize with me over my wheelchair and what I was doing. So I was just showing my work. Um, Going through the training, I got to realize if I allowed people to sympathize, not that I'm a sympathy seeker, but allowing them to sympathize is where the inspiration comes in.
Wow.
So if I allow that piece, allow somebody to sympathize, they are inspired to do more, or whatever's going on. I've realized that was the connection of the inspiration.
Okay, so what was the first big post you did that kind of like opened up that vulnerable to, okay, this is me, this is how I'm doing it?
Hmm. I at first I think I had a big video blow up with just my work.
Mhm.
I do these boards with all my scrap pieces and I throw them all together, and they're called a chaos board.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And that video, I think overnight got something like 30,000 views on it when I first posted it. And I was all excited. I was like, "Oh, it went viral!"
Yeah.
It was very small, but I was
Who
excited
cares?
because all my other ones were only getting like 100, 200 views. And so then I started like, well, what if I start showing my wheelchair? And through the Chris Lee training was, I think that was a big part of me being grateful. Also,
Mhm.
was being blessed that I got in the car accident. And he did an exercise of have to get to I'm blessed to because.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you had that one before, but he explains I have to do this. You write it down, and then you switch the have into get, and then you say I'm blessed to because. And when I started writing all that down, and I focused on I'm blessed to because I'm blessed to be in a wheelchair because I got my daughter. I'm blessed to be in it because I can inspire people. And I started going through all the stuff of what I was blessed to over being in a wheelchair. And that started saying, well, maybe I just got to start showing I'm in a wheelchair. And I think the first few videos that I've went out and said, hey, I'm quadriplegic. Um, I want to say the first video I posted went to like 700,000 views.
So from your
And
30,000, oh my gosh, I'm viral to
yeah,
wow.
so
Wow.
then I just started seeing the connection. And I just did Chris Lee's training again like 2 weeks ago.
Ugh, I'm
Um,
jealous I couldn't go to that one. But
I had to go back again. So when I went there the first time, I had a goal of getting 100,000 followers because it seemed so far away. And like, I want to say 5 days before I did the training, I hit my 100,000.
shut up.
So I went for a bigger goal on there, and I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, so what's your goal now?
10 million.
Okay, and so you did your first abundance and prosperity how long ago?
I want to 2018,
Okay. And now
2018, I think,
so
somewhere
like
around there.
4 years it took you to get to 100,000 ish.
Well, okay. So the first time I did abundance 3 times now.
Oh,
First,
okay. Okay.
first time was 2018. Second time was 2019. My 2019 goals took 3 years to get where I'm at now.
Okay. And how long are you giving yourself, because goals have end dates, right?
Mhm.
How long are you giving yourself to get to 10 million?
That was part of my 10-year roadmap there.
10-year
So
plan. Okay.
yeah,
All right. So what day can we check up on you to see if you've hit the 10 million mark?
I want. It was November 6th of this month. So
Okay. So
2032 November.
I'm writing it down. If it doesn't happen, if it's not written down,
Well,
2032.
the and my 10-year goal of 100,000 was 3 years ago. So we'll see how it goes.
You've got this. I'm so pumped. Okay. So with that being said, like what's your plan? How are you gonna do that?
So with all my followers, I haven't spent a penny into promoting any videos.
Wow.
So that's something that I've left out, and I'm gonna start looking into promoting and just getting myself out there. Um, oh, that's where I was talking about before, is that I still struggle with stepping into the inspirational videos.
Hmm.
So that's still my. I can't say it's a fear because I do it. And I think it's still part of that proving myself thing. Like I want to, there's something that I'm trying to get out of it. And I sometimes, well, a lot of times I don't see that I'm inspirational. I see the feedback, I see the comments, and I know what I'm doing is inspirational throughout the thousands and thousands of comments I get, but I'm just living my day-to-day life. I don't see that part. So stepping into being inspirational and making an inspirational video challenges me.
Be do have. Be first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, I feel like with the way things are going and having this interview and then what you said, seeking out, promoting your videos, I feel like you're going to get there in no time. You seem to be a very well-rounded person and have this incredible story, and you're so vulnerable and so willing to share. I even asked you how you had your daughter, and you were like, "All right, here we go." So, oh my gosh. Okay, well, hopefully this podcast adds a million. I'm gonna go with a million. That's my thought, is a million followers to you. But will you share what your Instagram and all of your different platforms are?
It's keep it pushing woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
Um, pushing without the G.
Ooh,
So it's
okay.
not pushing.
Woodwork.
On YouTube, it's keep it pushing woodwork. On the other ones, they're all together with the @ sign or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube's the only one where it's actually separated out into words.
Okay.
But those are
And that's where
my
everybody can
plat.
find you
Yeah.
to follow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So getting back into the headspace of, were you in a coma at all post accident, or were you totally lucid?
I was awake 2-3 minutes after the accident,
Wow.
and it was weird. I never really dealt with anybody paralyzed. Never. That wasn't like a word that was common of what I was using. But that was the first question I was asking. Am I paralyzed? So like
Did you know?
internally, I I felt I knew I couldn't move anything at the time when I very first got accident. It was from everything. My head was plopped over. I couldn't pick up my head. Couldn't move my arms. I couldn't move nothing at all. So I had a guy that was on the outside said, "Sit me up," and he pulled me up, and then I just kind of fell back over to where I was, and they all were telling me that I was in shock, and they were trying to give me some kind of shot to wake me back up or whatever. And I just remember my question the whole time. Am I paralyzed? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. We don't know what's going on. You have to go to the doctor. And
So
but
are you
I
saying,
knew I knew instantly.
wow, are you saying that you went home after the accident?
No, I went
Oh,
straight to the hospital.
okay.
I was in that. I got my accident March 21st. I was in ICU for about a week.
Mhm.
Um, then I went up to a room, and then I went from April 10th to June 16th. I was at Craig Hospital, spinal cord injury in Colorado,
Mhm.
and that was from April 10th to June 16th. I was up in there for rehab, and they did all their checkups and everything on my surgery throughout over there.
Wow. And at what point did you get some of the feeling back a little lower?
So I would, um, the first, it was a while. So at first I was able to pick up my arms up to my chest, but I had no triceps, and my triceps are still very weak.
Mhm.
But like in the beginning of my accident, if I would put my arm up like this, my arm would just fall down. And that was for like a year before I was able to straighten my arm back out. And in the beginning, it was very weak. I had an incident happen when I was out at Craig Hospital, because one of their things was to get you out into the world, and they want you to get in public settings so you could get used to it. And because a lot of people go to their room and that's the rest of their life, they don't get out. So part of the rehabilitation is trying to get people to get back into the real, back with life. And I had couple experiences going out, and I noticed when I was in a regular chair, I wouldn't have as much looks, or I can't say. So, example, I would go to a restaurant in my regular chair and I'd have a normal conversation with the waiter or waitress. If I was in my power chair, they would ask the people I was with, what does he want to eat?
What?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many times it's that happened where they're like, because they see my hands aren't working at the time. I was a lot more weak. I went from my accident, I was 6 foot, 205 pounds, and I dropped down to like 132 pounds within like 2 months from
Wow.
just nothing going on. My appetite was really bad. So I got really skinny. My hands weren't working, and they just, and I, nowadays, I don't blame the waitress, because if you ever went to a sit on the other hand of it, if they would ask somebody, what do you want to eat? And a parent was offended, you can't see that he can't answer you, so that it could have went both ways on them. So I understand now where it was, but it's still, at the time, there was a lot of judgment. So the first 11 to 12 years, I never got into a power chair because of that. But thankful over it, because I've gained my triceps pushing on my wheels all the time. I've gained a lot of strength. There's a lot of people, and I won't say all of them, because there are a lot that are even doing better than I am at C67, but a lot of them are doing a lot worse with muscle,
Mhm.
because they're in a power chair and they're not pushing. And it does make life, certain things, easier in a power chair. But to me, like, I don't have any kind of special vehicle. I don't use special tools in my shop. I don't do everything. I adapt to my situation. I could get myself in my car, tear my chair down, pull it over my chest, put it in there, to where a lot of people would be in a power chair, be in a van, and have all these special things. And again, I'm not like trying to compare and put those people down, but I'm happy for what I got out of pushing around and getting the muscles that I did, because I could have been in a lot weaker situation
Yeah.
with my arm strength.
Is there any possibility that any other functions will come back over time?
Over time, with no kind of surgery, no.
Okay.
They have been working on stem cells. I kind of, when I first got in the accident, they were all like, "Oh yeah, 5 years, they're gonna have a surgery, you'll be walking again." And so I was just kind of drinking and doing whatever, waiting for my 5 years to come up so I could
They
have my
all said it
surgery.
5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just put it off for 5 years and wait, and that never happened. So I kind of stopped paying attention to what's going on. And with the laws that they don't allow stem cell surgeries here in the US, like you were saying earlier, with stuff that they don't really, if they were to come out with a cure for me,
Hmm.
I put out a wheelchair company, I put out catheter company, Surgiloop. There's so many other things that I need on the medical side. And this is, I might not be right. This is just my point of view on it. But I feel that if they did want to cure me or had to cure me, I would put out a lot of other people out of business, close a lot of businesses down with the surgery that would cure the spinal cord. So I just kind of, if it happens, it happens. And so, and a lot of people ask about what I'm getting back. And honestly, if I were able to get the surgery, I don't think I would ever waste the time to walk again. Like I don't have, that's not an issue to me. Like walking's overrated.
Like
I,
you've lived longer without it. You're like, eh.
it's, and there's other things I would want first. I would want function of my bowels first.
Okay.
Function to pee on my own first. I have to use a catheter, and there's times I have an accident because I don't make it in time. There's so many other things that I would want before walking.
I see.
So yeah, there's not.
So what you're
I'm
saying is
not.
at the end of the day, the walking is like the cherry on top. The meat of it
Yeah,
all is really
I don't even know if I'd go after it. I put all that work in because, in all honesty, I don't see if there was a surgery that cured my spinal cord all the way that I would be walking normal
hmm,
uh, throughout so many years. And just there's a lot of muscle that you would have to pick up. I just don't see that. And if I could stand up to reach something off the top shelf and get back in my wheelchair, I'm good with that.
mhm.
But the actual walking part, I have so much more I could be doing in that time than worry about walking. There's a lot more life I feel than walking.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy because I feel like that's the first thing that people's mind goes to and independence. But everything that you said, being able to control your bowels and using the restroom, like it almost doesn't even come to somebody's mind because it just seems like walking would be everything. But I hear you when you say that those would take precedence over walking.
Yeah, and that's what I need my caregiver for.
Yeah.
So my caregiver comes in the morning. She does a bowel program on me. It's digital stimulation. So basically, they got to put just the first tip of their finger in my butt, basically, and you do circles. It makes the muscles work. I empty out for the day. I got myself on a program where I do it every morning at 7 in the morning. And that way there I don't go to the bathroom on myself during the day. My body's kind of trained to always go at the bathroom at that time.
Hmm.
And I haven't had a bowel accident in a few years. It took a while to get my body trained to it, but now that part's good. But it's still that's the part I need a caregiver for.
That's crazy. So essentially, is it because those muscles don't work or is it because you can't feel them or something totally different that I just don't understand?
Yeah, yeah. What are you asking for
Using the
about?
restroom, I guess. Using
So the bowel program, because I don't, yeah, I have involuntary. So if I feel up too much, I just go to the bathroom by myself.
Okay.
And then because since you get your body on, they call it a program because you want to do it at the same time, same day. Some people are every 2 days. I do it every day just to make sure I'm cleaned out and I don't have that worry about going to the bathroom by myself while I'm working.
Hmm.
But it's just again, so the muscles don't work. There's no function in the muscles from there down to voluntarily go, but that stimulation of the circles makes the muscles work in there and contract in whatever way it does to bring everything out and go.
Oh, that's fascinating. So essentially, your nerves are not telling your muscles to go, but the outer
Yeah,
stimulation tells them.
yeah, it's like a manual.
That's
I
crazy.
don't have the automatic. I got the manual.
Oh, well, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for sharing that because I know some people would be like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go into detail about that," but I think I
yeah,
appreciate that you're willing to be honest about that, and I'm sure other people do too. Do you feel like having somebody to have to come in and do all of these things that you cannot do for yourself, do you feel like that really took a toll initially on your mental
yeah.
state?
And it still at times does take a toll because like I want to say a little over a year ago, but the caregiver that I have now, she was at another client's house, slipped and fell on a rug, hit her shoulder, had to have rotator cuff surgery.
Oh no.
And so then it was like, what am I going to do? And you go through these panic moments of they sent a caregiver over. The first one, you could tell she was a drug addict. And the second one, the first day, she didn't show up to the job. And it was just like, so you go through all these people, and it's hard to find somebody reliable. And they max them out at like $12.50 an hour.
Oh my God.
So it's not like you're going to get a quality care worker. And I will say the one I do have now, she is a quality caregiver. But she's had her moments where she was sick. She had COVID. And in those times, it is a panic of what am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, because you want to worry and you want to care about her, but then you're also like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like what am I going to get? Who's going to come in here and see all my glory and
Yeah.
take care of me and hopefully do it properly? I'm sure there are ways that they can mess up what they do for you as well.
And that's another thing, because it usually takes about a week and a week to 2 weeks to fully train them, so they understand how my bowels work, when I'm empty, when I'm done. Because a lot of people can't get me; they're not stimulating the muscle right, so they can't get me to go.
Mhm.
A lot of them will stop early, and I'll end up going to my bathroom on myself later on in the day because they're just not they're not used to when I'm actually done.
Okay. And you said it takes you about 4 hours every day to go through the process of just getting ready for the
So
day.
yeah, so my first hour is usually my bowel program, and then I do about my body's so weird. So overnight, because I don't have like, you stretch in the middle of the night and everything, my legs don't stretch. So by the morning time, I'm kind of curled up a little bit, and I have to loosen my legs out. It takes about 2 hours for me to stretch myself enough for my caregiver to finish off the range of motion that I need.
Okay.
And with that stretching, it also takes away my muscle spasms. If I don't do that, I have severe muscle spasms that will throw me out of my wheelchair. So I have to make sure like I'm all the way stretched out. And the weird part about it is, if I fall asleep and take a 20-minute nap, it's like almost having to start over again with the muscle spasms. So I
Really?
would, yeah, I'd fall asleep for 20 and everything just kind of tightens up. I'm spasming the rest of the day. It's really weird how that part works. But yeah, so the stretching is like a major part of my day just to stay in my wheelchair.
So, do all quadriplegics deal with the spasming, or is that more unique to your situation because you have that somewhat feeling?
No, all of us, I would say all of us have, and a lot of them actually have a lot more. I've made stretching very important to me.
Mhm.
Throughout the years, it was because if I did walk, they told you don't want to be atrophied or your muscles, it's going to be pointless if they come out with surgery.
Mhm.
But I've noticed throughout that stretching, I had a lot less spasms. There's a lot of people that have these baclofen pumps in them to help with pain and spasms and all these different medications. I'm on no medications at all. It's hard to even get me to take like a Tylenol. I don't like taking any kind of medicines. For a long time, I used medical marijuana
Mhm.
to help out with my muscle spasms, but I've even got away from all that, and I don't use any kind of medications. But there's a lot of people that do have spasm medications that they use to help them out and all these other things. But I've just found stretching works better than any of them. And then like the pump that they put in you is it's in your body, and you have to go get a shot to get that thing refilled every few months. And I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's like in your stomach area, and there's a catheter that goes into your spinal cord or something, and it has like a drip that's just constantly dripping in there, and you got to refill it. And I don't want nothing foreign in my body and having to deal with that kind of stuff, because your body rejects those type of things, so to me, it just putting extra stress on yourself.
Yeah. I'm listening and I'm following and I'm like, yes, I would probably do the same thing. Um, is it painful? I know you said that they kind of throw you out of your chair, but do you experience pain when you're spasming?
Spasming, I wouldn't say there's too much pain in the spasms. I do have like, I guess they call them like phantom pains and nerve pain and stuff. I get especially on the top part of my arm right here is like a burning sensation that's really bad. Sometimes I feel like I got like the needle in the neck pains.
Mm,
They just come out of nowhere. It just feels like you just have a needle in your neck out of nowhere.
mm.
I do have a lot of those kind of pains
No
during
rhyme
the
or
day and throughout.
reason. Just
Just happens. I can't think of the name of what they call it right now. But there's a large percent of us that deal with those pains, some worse than others. I've always felt that I had a high uh, tolerance for pain,
mhm.
so it doesn't affect me like it does other people. But there's pain throughout the day that I deal with, and so and the pain that I can't feel. So my body, I don't sweat normally. So when it's my body doesn't regulate temperature from where I'm paralyzed at. So I live in Las Vegas. It gets 120 degrees out here. I do not sweat in the heat. The heat does not make me sweat at all, and I could
Wow.
very easily get overheated, just like a car with no water in it, have a heat stroke the whole night. So I have to like dump water on my head. I call it my artificial sweat. I keep an extra bottle and a spray. I say, oh, that guy's sweating over there. Maybe I should too.
Uh,
I spray myself.
you take your cues from random people. You're like, oh, hey,
Yeah,
sweat ring.
he looks he looks a little hot. Maybe I'm hot too.
Oh my gosh. So
Um,
you don't even
but
know. Like half the time, you don't even know that you should be hot.
I do start feeling I'll feel it, but if I'm trying to keep myself cool in a hot situation, I pay attention to what others are going through to keep myself cool. But
Wow.
I do feel it. It gets really I can't tolerate it when I'm overheated. It's like an episode almost, and it's really hard to cool down. There's times where I have to strip down naked, get in a fan, wet rags all over my body with the fan on me, trying to cool down because it's really that. It's like it's some kind of episode that it just takes over, and trying to cool down. When I do sweat is when I'm in pain. So
Oh.
all of a sudden I'll just be sweating bullets all over my forehead, and it's like, and it could be something stupid, could be a wrinkle in my boxers that I got to pull out. It could be something really just off the wall. And sometimes I'm just in pain from something. Uh, the pain just starts coming in, and I'll start getting like really bad, wet my shirt, sweating. And that's all just from pain.
And I'm assuming you're saying that that's like the telltale that somewhere something is hurting and you can't feel it, but it's
Right. Yes.
okay. So how do you discover what it is?
So if you notice me, this whole thing, I've been like moving around a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because I always trying to transfer my weight off of this butt cheek to that butt cheek. And a lot of people who are paralyzed will sit there normal, and then every 20 minutes they'll lift up out of their seat to give their butt a break.
Uh-huh.
But I just have this thing with always moving around and just keeping it. Also helps with my muscle spasms, because if I sit still too long, a muscle spasm will come out of that from the pain of me sitting. My leg will spasm. So I'm always just kind of moving around.
Hmm.
But that's yeah, I just start going through the motions with it. I pull my boxers out. I check stuff around that would normally be in pain, and sometimes I have to get in the bed and lay down, and that's what it is. So it's just I just if I can't figure it out sitting in my chair, I definitely get in the bed. Sometimes I just need a break for 20 minutes, and then I'm good to go.
But no napping.
Sometimes yeah, no napping. Um, some my wheelchair seat is an air seat, but sometimes they'll pop, and it takes like a good month to 2 months to the insurance to get a new one.
Okay.
And with the flat seat, it'll affect my sitting, it'll affect my brow program, it'll affect everything. Everything will be in a lot of pain at that period of time where I'm sweating a lot. And it takes probably about a good week and a half after getting the seat to everything go back to normal.
Wow. I feel like from the things I've heard you say, your life kind of almost moves in this very controlled environment so that you can have like the best possible outcome of every day.
Yeah,
It has to be very regimented or it totally throws off everything.
pretty
So
much. Yeah.
I heard you say something about traveling with your caregiver in the future. Is Do you have fears around traveling because of that very regimented schedule?
Not too much. I haven't thought about like deep traveling, so if anything, it's only 3 hours off. And once I get over there, as long as it'll be a little bit. So right now, because I start every morning at 6, I got it down my bow program to 45 minutes to an hour. Switching it up might take a little bit longer since it's a different time,
Mm-hmm.
but after a couple days, because it's been so long, my body will get used to it. And I don't have a huge fear. I've traveled before. I've never had a major issue with the traveling besides just a little extra time.
Mm-hmm. Is it worth it? Do you like for most people they're like, "Oh my gosh, vacation, travel, I'm so ready to get out of here." But for you it seems like more almost more of a hassle to go somewhere.
Yeah, they're definitely more of a, it's just kind of became part of my life after 22 years.
It just is what
It's
it
just
is.
I've been paralyzed longer than I have been not.
So
So
it's like I
I
don't
just
even
kind of got
know.
this. Yeah, this is just life now. This is just how it goes. So
You just don't know what you
I
don't
don't
know. I got you.
I don't pay attention to that part of in the beginning. It was a little bit stressful, having to make sure you had all your medical equipment that I needed. Um, how am I going to get on an airplane? Like stuff like that was always like a huge thought in the beginning of planning it out and trying to work it out. But now it's just show up. It's going to get done one way or another.
That's all right. I like your attitude. So you were 16 when the accident happened. Um, how did your parents deal?
It hit them hard,
Yeah.
especially my dad. I worked with my dad all the time. Um, we were just talking because I'm actually in my sister's renting one of my dad's houses, and he has a back piece of tile in up by the back door that he still hasn't removed because that was one of the last projects we and him did together.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
sweet. Okay. Are they still around?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And what do they think
Yeah.
of what you're doing? Are they still
Uh,
proud of
they're
you?
they're 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 pretty proud of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my mom are. We have discussions. It's kind of like almost changed roles at times when she needs to talk. Where I used to go to her, and now she comes to me for things, and so it's been kind of cool. My dad's happy. He keeps on telling me to hurry up so we could go into business together and get the business going. He's
Ah.
tired of doing everything he's doing, but yeah, it's
Okay.
been.
What business are you going to create with him?
I still haven't decided where. I know what I so my vision of what I want to do is still to have a shop. I was actually talking to a lady earlier today. I want to do some kind of teaching program, teaching woodshop to people with disabilities.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to have a shop and them as the workers, or just teach them to give them some kind of therapeutic way of getting back into life. I've just been kind of playing it day by day. I haven't. Uh,
You just
I
know you want to
do
be
want
in
to.
that realm.
I know I want to step into my speaking or motivational speaking, inspirational. I've been trying to focus on that a little bit more, and I'm just kind of seeing what doors open up. The podcast was awesome. I kind of want to do more of these. So when you hit me up, I was like, hell yeah, I've been wanting to do this for. Like, yeah, I've gotten invited to at least 10 of them and nobody's came through. And I was like, man.
Oh, I'm on it.
uh,
I'm a doer. I'm a controller. If I ask, it's happening.
yeah, yeah, we got on real quick. So I was excited for that.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I do want to step a little bit more in this and start just telling more of my story. I mean, there's even just this little bit of time right here. There's just so much more that happened in that time and stuff that I did. And I know the more I talk, the more comfortable I'll be about talking about other things I went through.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I'm kind of excited for that area.
without me prompting you, what is like the one thing that came to your mind when you said that? It's You said something about sharing more about being comfortable and sharing more about myself. what's the first thing that comes to your mind that you know you haven't shared yet, but you're like, oh, I just want to step out on this branch and share that?
I've shared a lot of things I haven't shared, and I can't say that I haven't shared everything because I'm pretty open,
Mm-hmm.
but like getting on social media and stuff like that, and doing stuff like this was um, before I I was selling drugs. I was trafficking a lot of marijuana from California all the way out to New York. I was doing a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like probably the first 15 years of me being in a wheelchair. um well, 15, 17 years, about the, yeah, 15 to 17 years, somewhere in there. But that's, and a lot of that was a limiting, uh I limited myself with the, I had to make money under the table. I had to do all these other things, and I definitely want to talk about that more because I still have friends that I love very much that are still in the life, and I want to show that there is change, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more to them that they could bring to the table
So I feel,
in a positive way.
yeah, I feel like what I'm hearing you say is that you know that you had limiting beliefs about who you are or who you were and what you were capable of, and kind of selling drugs was like the only way, the only thing you were quote unquote good for. Um,
Yeah,
and you feel like maybe you have some friends out there that are struggling with not that exact same mindset, but something that's keeping them from thinking that they can achieve even bigger. Like, what would you say to them if you felt like what I'm going to say to them right now is going to serve them and it's going to inspire them to choose something different? What would you say?
oh, that's a good one.
I know. If there's a pause, I can cut out the pause. So you need a minute to
All
think about it.
right. um I definitely want just to put out that uh there's just so much more, and we kind of grew up in a neighborhood to where we rose above a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in our neighborhood, and but there's so much more, there's so much more potential in, and I can't, it's hard to say it because I don't want to try to be putting anybody down, um
Yeah.
with what they are doing, but they just have so much more to live. There's so much they and I do believe like they're limited on what they're seeing for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it's getting past that, the image. There's an image that comes along with it, and it's okay to surrender that image of toughness.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to show love. It's okay to love. Um, and there's just a lot of, I have one friend in particular I'm thinking of right now,
I'm gonna
and
cry. Sorry.
I see his, that's making me cry a little bit too, and I see his struggles that he goes through all the time, and I know he's doing his best as a father. I
Mm-hmm.
know he's putting his all in and taking care of what he has to take care of, but there's just so much more he could be doing right now. And so much more, even though and it's hard because in our eyes, in those moments, we are setting a great example.
Yeah.
We're taking care of our family. We have to do what we're got to do. We're getting past. We're paying the bills. There's roof over your head. There's food on the table. And to us, in those moments, we feel accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so much. There's just so much more once you get past that image, that worrying about what people think about you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was, a lot of them. I had to do a lot of starting over. That I had for a while. I had no, like, zero friends to go to. I had to cut a lot of people out to change mine, and now I'm okay being back around them. Because I know that I'm at a point where it was scary for me for a long time. It was very easy for me to step back into it.
Yeah.
I'd get a phone call, and still to this day, I get a phone call from somebody, hey, I could drop you with this, blah 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 blah. My automatic mind goes into, hey, I'll call up this person, I'll call up that person, I can make this money real quick. And sometimes it'll last for like 20 minutes and I have to use the tools that I've learned to, I'm on something bigger now. This is there's consequences that could come behind this, and it's not always just jail. There's bigger consequences that could happen, so I have to take the tools and learn that, and what are going to be my actual payoffs. And sometimes the actual payoff is only $1, but the risk is so much higher.
Mhm.
And with those people, that's another thing, is like, we're risk takers.
There's like
They talk
there's
it
a
they
adrenaline
they
to it, right?
they talk this stuff about, if you want to go out and you want to make something, you have to take risks. We are risk takers all the way. We have to take different risks,
Yeah.
but we're risk takers for sure, and that's what I definitely just want to, yeah, I, I do want to step into that a little bit. I have like a lot of friends too that I want to get into the woodworking and just kind of show them different kind of stuff around, that it don't have to be that kind of lifestyle. There's just so much more. It does take time, but when we very first started doing all this, we weren't making money like that. We had to build up over the years. Now you just got to start over and do it again and get yourself to a different point. And it's so much better. The relief I have driving down the street nowadays and not in my mirror, seeing if there's a cop in my rearview mirror, or that nervous feeling when you're driving across states and with the trunk full. It's great. It's so relieving having that weight off my shoulders and just having a normal life. Like, it's not, those things take a toll on you, and I don't care who you are. When you have certain things and there is that risk, it'll come over you for a second, even though everybody, oh, I'm not worried about it. You worry about it at
Right.
certain times, and not having that worry is it's great. It feels good. There's not,
Mhm.
it's like I had a weight on my shoulders for a long time and it's just not there anymore.
That reminds me of that. When people say, I don't care what people think, I always feel like the people that say that are the people that probably care the most, and they just don't even realize how much they care.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of similar with what you were saying about the worry. I'm not worried about it.
It,
Are you not? Are you lying to yourself and you're probably really worried about it and you don't even know it?
the crazy thing was, I had those feelings for over a year of being free from it all.
Hmm.
I had the weight off my shoulders, but I'd still have my automatic was, oh my, you know, looking over my shoulder or seeing the cop come up, and it's like, sit up straight, like I had these. And it lasted for like a good year until it was just like, all right, what am I worried about right now? There's nothing gonna go on if I get pulled over.
Yeah, it was like
It's perfect.
PTSD almost like
Yeah, it affects you in a way that, and you don't even realize it, because it becomes so automatic, and we grew up in it. A lot of us have been doing it since we were 12, 13 years old. I wasn't that young, but a lot of my friends were, and it was just, you're, it's an automatic. You don't even realize what you're putting yourself through.
wow.
And yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've lost all words, which is crazy because I talk all the time and I have plenty of questions all the time, but I really appreciate you sharing that, and I hope that even if it's not one of your friends, that somebody else hears that and is like, "Okay, that was my sign." Um
Yeah.
to do something different, to try something different, to take a risk in a different way. Because maybe getting out of that is scarier than staying in it, or seems scarier than staying in it. It's kind of like what you were talking about before of your money situation and your caregiver situation. Is there's that gray area that you
Yeah.
just got to decide to take the leap. So wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. So was there a rock bottom then for you?
Uh, at what point?
Well, any point, but I was thinking you said, your accident, and then you lived this life of kind of selling drugs and alcohol, and then in 2017 there was this shift. Was there a rock bottom, or was a world just opened up for you that you didn't see before?
All right, I'll give you there was two. One I can't talk about that much because of I'll put it like second weekend
Okay.
change my
Yep.
life. I can put it
Yep.
at that.
Okay.
All
If
right.
anybody wants to know what he's talking about, you're looking for choicecenterleadership.com in Las Vegas. Second
Yeah,
weekend. Changed my life too. Okay.
change my life. So the thing there was a seed set in there. Um I was put in a situation. Uh, if I say too much, edit this part out. All right.
Okay.
But I'm gonna
Okay.
try to say it without giving it away.
Okay.
I was put in a situation and I'm trying to say it so you could don't have to edit it out.
You're fine.
So basically, I got put in a life and death situation and was asked some questions, and they they they, they asked I asked them to save my life, and the lady said, "Why would I save you? And you'll be back out in the streets tomorrow, setting the example for your daughter and still selling drugs."
Oh my gosh.
And that hit me like really hard because that was my plea. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I'm raising her on my own, um, and that didn't mean nothing to him. And then that hit me. Now, before that,
I'm
I
going to
was in
cry
a
a little.
situation. I always done my business outside of my house. I never really had like a place to come. But if it was like somebody I knew, a very close friend, and they were coming over to hang out anyways, I didn't mind doing something out of my house. It was my friend, but actual just having people stop by as a like a trap house or something like that, and that never was that. And I remember giving one of my friends some weed,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter was very young, and she held out her hand and said, "Give me the money." And that hit me. That
Mm-hmm.
hit me hard, really hard, because in the time I didn't think I was doing enough for her
Mm-hmm.
to see what was going on or realize what was going on. And that was the one thing before second weekend that that hit me, you know what I mean? So that stuck in my mind. So when she said that, that was just, and then there was a lot of, you want to lead by example. And ever since then, that's been my main thing was just, I'm the example. It don't matter what I say, what I tell to her, she's obviously seeing. She
Mm-hmm.
obviously sees an example. So from there on out, it was a definite change of I need to be the example. It's not what I say to her; it's what she sees in me.
Oh my
So I would say that was like my rock bottom right there.
the two things combined of
Two
having your
things combined, and it was already set when that happened with her. It was like I would take her to if I had to go do anything, I'd go drop her off with my aunt, go drop her off with my grandma. So she wasn't seeing that, but when the trainer told me that was like you'll still be out there doing it tomorrow, even if I did save you. And I was like, fuck. And it hit me hard because it was true.
yeah.
I'll admit on the weekend I was up there, I had stuff in my car and people were meeting up, going in my car while I was in the parking lot, doors unlocked, and that was, but it just completely changed me from that time on. Like it was, all right, it's got to change now. So that was definitely when she couldn't have. I always say she gave me a good kick in the balls, but it was like the best one ever, because that was the best thing I could have ever heard.
I know exactly what experience you're talking about, and I will just say this: nobody's life is actually in danger. But I know what you're talking about, and I in that same exercise, I'm gonna call it an exercise. I learned that I care a lot about what other people think of me, a lot, and I somehow tethered it to like my self-worth. So if you didn't like me, it definitely meant that I was just a piece of crap and I wasn't worthy of time, space, energy. And I learned that I put together, excuse me, I'm like getting teary-eyed here. I learned that I put together trying to earn worthiness. So not only if you didn't like me did I feel like it connected to my self-worth and what I thought about myself, but also I was always trying to earn somebody's acceptance, love, and stuff. And that can get you in a lot of trouble. It can really make you have no north on your compass if you're always trying to be something that somebody else wants you to be liked, which it's nobody else's fault. That's something that I've carried around forever, but I did let it go, and that exercise was phenomenal to be able to see that mirror put up for me and be like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So but thank you for sharing that. Was that the moment in 2017 then?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've covered a ton of stuff, and I just think the world of you, Pat. I honestly think that you are an inspiration for everything that you do, just from day-to-day things. And I think anybody out there that's in your similar situation who maybe isn't on social media or doing incredible work woodworking, just the life that you end up leading in your situation is incredibly inspirational. And so thank you for sharing it. I don't think enough people get vulnerable to share their situations, and I think a lot of people can learn from everybody. But before we complete our podcast, which has been incredible, is there anything that you feel like you want to share that maybe I missed asking, that you're like, it's just something I have to say? Or do you feel like we've kind of covered it all?
Yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty good.
Well, I've had a great time talking to you. I think that, like I said, you're an incredible human being, and I'd love to have you on again, especially when you hit, I'm going to say not 10 million, but 1 million followers. I want to have you back on.
Okay.
Are you open to that?
Well, I'm open to that anytime.
Oh, thank you, Pat, so much for being on. One more time, will you give us your Instagram handle and your TikTok handle?
All of it is keep it pushing woodwork
Without the G, right?
without the G on the pushing. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment or like. If you'd like to see video content of this episode, follow us on our YouTube channel, Hillary Simply. And as always, stay passionately curious.